All right. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Kingdom of the Kael Isles, with special guest, the Legend of the Three Kingdoms peoples. For those of you that have been watching recently, I've been doing a crossover episode with my two games, and we have just a little bit more storyline to kind of shore up. So we're going to start off finishing the crossover, and then we'll be heading back to a more regular game of the Kingdom of the Kael Isles. So, without any further ado, very quick recap. Fade and Kata got dragged not only through space, but apparently through time into the Three Kingdoms, and had to deal with or ran into this other unnamed party that had just finished dealing with some fairies. They spoke for a little bit, fought some vampires, and then went to the Temple of the Dark Lady to try and find a way back. While they were there, they met the head priest of the Temple to the Dark Lady, and he was less than pleased with them. On their way out, though, one of the acolytes actually spoke to them, which was weird, and took them into basically like the student dorms area of it. And that is where we are going to pick it up. So, yeah. Give me a second here. All right, so when we last left off, I believe it was Vala had just contacted Henri to kind of bring him back, or no, someone else did it.
Fade did.
Okay.
Yep.
So Henri was coming back with the commander, who is surprisingly silent right now. And while that was all happening, Vala was getting drunk. However, Vala was not getting drunk on regular alcohol. Vala was getting drunk on moonshine, basically. Much higher proof, much more dangerous. And Vala, you notice that this is good stuff. Your first drink burned all the way down, and by your second drink, you were already feeling that familiar warmth through your entire body. And by the time you even started to think, maybe I should slow down a bit, it had already hit you, and you were out.
Yeah, I'm trying to drink away my disappointment over all of the events that have been happening recently. So yes.
So you very quickly go from kind of blubbering, giddy drunk to sad drunk to almost catatonic drunk. You're not unconscious, but you're kind of almost a prisoner in your own body at this point. And you see the guy that makes the moonshine just through your unfocused eye, you do see him start coming towards you. You feel almost as if it's happening to someone else. You feel these little slaps on your face. You hear him try and say something to you. You see his hand go in front. And then you feel your entire body just kind of lifted into the air as he slings you over his shoulder and moves you to another part of this little clearing where he just kind of plops you onto a cot, which you assume is there for the myriad of people that tend to react the exact same way you did when coming here. And you lay quietly on this bed, kind of drifting in and out of your body, it almost feels like. And as you're lying there, trying to get your alcohol muddled mind to focus and try and figure out what in the world you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to deal with this information. Suddenly, it's almost as if someone's taken a bullseye lantern and shined it right in your face. And you try and blink, but again, your body has decided to go on vacation. And so you can't close your eyes. You can't turn away from it. All you really can do is let out a slight grunt, because it hurts just from how bright it is. As you focus more, you notice the light isn't attached to anything. The light's not being projected from anything. And as you slowly fight just to turn your head slightly so it's not directly being shined in your face, you notice it's not casting a shadow.
Okay.
And as you look at it more, you keep expecting kind of a burning sensation. You've had bright light shined on you. It gets hot after a while. That's how light works. But it's not. It gets somewhat warm for a second, but then it just becomes this very comfortable, enveloping feeling. Almost as if someone had wrapped you in a warm blanket that had been sitting on top of a dying stove after everything had been cooked, where it's just nice and pleasantly warm. And as your eyes start to focus a little bit, you see in the middle of this light a face.
Okay.
The face itself seems almost porcelain in its perfection. The eyes have these deep black eyeliner-like marks on them that continue off. The lips are this ruby red color, deep and inviting. The eyes themselves have these irises, the clearest blue you've ever seen. And this very feminine, beautiful face is just staring at you with this look halfway between concern and sadness. And it sits there looking at you. You almost feel like it wants to say something. Almost as if the face, if it had a body, was reaching out to you to embrace you or to jostle you or something. And as you continue to look, again, your body is checked out.
Yeah.
So you can't do anything. But you see a single tear go down. the face, and it stops right here at her chin and slowly comes down. And suddenly, this single tear drops from her face, and you feel it impact on yours. And this wave of electricity almost rushes over your entire body. You instantly wake up, sit up straight, sobered instantly. And there's nothing there anymore. Go ahead.
I reach up at my cheek and see, do I feel anything there?
It's still damp.
What the fuck? I look around.
It seems normal. You look around. You're actually in a little kind of area with just a bunch of cots. You can see some are occupied. One is occupied by a body, not a person. Obviously, they didn't wake up. But it hasn't been there long enough to have an incredibly strong scent. So you assume that was fairly recent.
Okay.
As you kind of check yourself over, you are stone cold sober.
Either that is some really good shit, or there's someone there. Okay, I need to go find the others.
As that is happening, Fade, you are again in a place that feels very familiar to you. You've lived in dorms like this before. It was not a fond memory, but it is a memory nonetheless. As you get in there and you've sent the message off to Henri, you're looking around. You do see acolytes coming to and from. You do notice, unlike the vestments that you were forced to wear while being an acolyte and an eventual researcher for the Dark Lady, all of your vestments had to be hidden or hideable in some way. You had to wear them, but they had to be very easy to cover up so no one would see you. These people are wearing very noticeable depictions of her holy symbol, of other symbols that you kind of associate with death, wrappings and other things like that. And it's just kind of a very bizarre feeling, having spent so long having to hide your affiliation and being surrounded by people that wear it so proudly. As you're taking this all in, the acolyte that had spoken to you grabs your hand right around the wrist and pulls on you just a little to kind of lead you further into this kind of catacomb-ish dormitory.
I say, does anyone not want to go down here? I'll be right back, probably.
I'm fine with following.
Okay.
I'm fine with following.
I don't think I'm there yet.
It's at this point, as you all are kind of speaking to each other, you hear a familiar sound of boots on stone, mixed with the rustling of fabric being dragged across the ground. And you look back to see Henri in his full get-up coming down. the stairs into this area. And while when you guys came down, you were largely ignored. When Henri comes down, everything stops.
I mean, you do look like the Reaper in a catacomb.
Yeah, kind of used to this.
There's a few whispers, just barely loud enough to hear that they happened, not loud enough to discern their specifics. And then the acolytes begin to kind of filter out. Some go into their rooms, which you notice, and is not uncommon, at least from your memory fade. None of them have doors or even kind of separating cloths. They're just doorways into rooms.
Yep.
And the few that don't go into their rooms filter out another exit further down. None of them go anywhere near Henri.
It doesn't bother me. I mean, Henri doesn't seem affected, so I don't feel it's my place to say anything. I just keep letting this little person take me by the arm, I guess.
Okay. So, Henri, you see this acolyte look at you. And again, this is the only acolyte you guys have seen that wears their hood far enough back that you can see parts of their face when they look up. All the rest wear it so deep that you can't see anything. And so she turns to look at you, Henri. And as you look at her, for the briefest moment, you get this strange feeling of familiarity, like you've seen her somewhere before. However, as soon as you feel that familiarity, it's gone just as quickly.
Is she, what race is she?
It's somewhat hard to tell. She has very pale skin, but so that kind of rules out dark elf. Beyond that, there's not a whole lot. You can't see her ears, so you can't really tell if she's elvish. She's too tall to be a halfling or a dwarf, and doesn't have enough hair to, be any of the beast races. So probably some form of elf or human. Could be a very pale tiefling as well, because you can't see if she has any horns.
Okay.
So
As we're walking, I'll do my Eyes of the Grave ability, which lets me see undead stuff if it's close by, not hidden.
Remind me, how does it work? You kind of see them?
Well, I can't see through actual stuff. I can read it to you in a sec here. As an action, you know the location of any undead within 60 feet of you that isn't behind total cover and isn't protected from divination magic until my next turn.
Okay. No, she wouldn't have done that. So yeah, as you kind of look around, there's nothing undead in here that you can see. Normally, you'd at least think there'd be maybe some necromantic energy from maybe resurrection rituals or things like that. There's nothing. It's almost scrubbed. That's how much lack of undeath there is here. And as you look around, you kind of just let your gaze wander to your wrist where she's holding it, and the small bits of flesh that peek through out of her robe, just her fingertips, but basically the rest is covered, glow bright white in your vision. And
That's not great.
As soon as you notice it, it clicks off because it only lasts for 6 seconds or 12 seconds.
Hey, Jody.
Yes?
Have I heard this acolyte speak?
You have not. She hasn't spoken since you got here. So she continues to kind of pull your arm and lead you deeper in.
I'll just ask her, because I clearly haven't had a problem talking here. Where are we going, and who are you?
And again, this very kind of clear, pure voice comes out. All will be explained in a moment. Chosen.
I'm down. I keep going. Don't care.
After hearing her voice, does it remind me of a recent event involving a suggestion spell?
Damn. It's a good question, and my brain is drawing a blank as to what you're referencing.
When we had to, we got attacked by people in the woods, and I cast suggestion on a younger female and started leading her through the forest.
Ooh,
Does
damn.
it remind me of her? That's what I'm asking.
Roll me a history check.
19.
So you're trying to figure out where this slight bit of familiarity came from. As you think and you hear the voice, suddenly you think you kind of recognize there are similarities to the woman you're thinking of, but as you think more and more about it, that's not who she reminds you of, despite the fact that it should. And that's the weirdest part. He's like, well, no, that is very similar, but that's not the thing that's triggering me. If you've ever heard us been trying to remember a song and you hear one really close to it and go, that's close, but that's not it.
Yeah.
Kind of the same thing.
I'm going to follow because I'm really intrigued by this woman.
Okay.
Yeah.
The rest of you are following as well?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So you continue going deeper. She keeps taking you through turns, and you guys have gotten out of kind of the dormitory. You've gone through a couple sections of very big, thick double doors, and you're now into what can only be described as a catacomb. You're walking past caskets and skeletons that have been entombed there possibly for centuries. And she doesn't let up. She doesn't second guess herself. Nothing. She is going on a very direct path and just continues to kind of lead Fade along.
I'd be very interested in casting Detect Magic on the way here as we're passing through everything.
Okay. You casting it a ritual?
No, just normal casting it.
Okay. So as you sit there and you start to do it instantly, the world around you becomes much brighter as this particular area does have a fair amount of kind of residual magical energy. There's been a lot of spells cast down here. There's even a few permanent spell effects that you notice as you're going through. Things like wards against undeath, specifically designed to prevent people from coming down here and raising undead.
Cool. I love it.
And a few other spells you do notice as you go through. There are some warning glyphs of warning type spells that deactivate as soon as she touches the area they would normally activate from. And then as you focus on her, she not only is exuding massive amounts of necromantic magic, there's also this kind of beam or aura of enchantment that is radiating into her from somewhere else that you can't see. It comes through the roof.
Okay. I like my X-ray specs, so I'll continue.
Okay. So you guys continue going, and eventually, Fade, you are brought into a very large room. It looks almost like a lecture hall. It is four sides and graduated stairs on all four sides, and next to the stairs on thing in the each set of stairs goes to a different doorway. You're coming in from the south of the room, and there's one in each wall. Next to the stairs on each side looks kind of like almost stadium seating or benches set in stadium, but instead of places to sit, you see grave markers and boxes of remains with holy symbols and marks on them meant to deter necromantic use, things like that. Almost as if you're sitting or you're standing in an undead lecture hall or stadium. The room itself is not massive, only about 25 feet on a side, but it goes down about 15 feet from where the doors are, and the ceilings extend another 15 feet above that. So at the center of the room, where there's a raised platform and a pedestal at the center, just large enough for an adult male to lie down on it, which isn't creepy at all. From the pedestal to the roof above it is about 30 feet. So at this point, you start realizing just how deep underground you are.
Sure. This is fantastic and not horrible at all.
And the young woman continues to pull you down towards the raised platform at the bottom.
I double check to make sure that my death ward is still active, and it should be. So I proceed down to the platform.
Okay.
God damn it.
Are we in here with them or just them?
You are right behind them.
Okay.
Fade is now being led down the pathway. You guys are technically still in the doorway.
I don't know, fam. Maybe hang up
I
and
will
nod
get
at
my
him.
life in it. I give him inspiration.
So, man, so Kata's in here with me. I don't know anyone else that's good enough to ask, but I asked Kata to cast a spell, and I into my ring here, and I give her a handshake. I let her make the choice.
As you turn to do that, you're still kind of moving down. She has a heck of a grip for such a small girl.
Oh, I'd stop in my tracks. Like she'd have to pull me over to move me.
Okay, so as you do, you see her kind of stop and almost fall from the lack of momentum, and she just turns and looks at you.
Just chill out. I'm coming. I'm coming. I give Kata. I don't know what's coming. You got any juice for me?
Cure wounds?
Sure. Put it in there.
Okay.
All right. Boom. Got
So the rest of you watch as Kata kind of focuses herself, and then she kind of grabs his hand. You watch as this little ring on his finger kind of glows with his green energy for a second, and then it's gone.
Thank you kindly. Hopefully we see you soon. And I go down with the lady again.
Okay. As you take another, few steps down, you suddenly notice the room gets darker. And as you try and figure out why, your detect magic is no longer working, but it hasn't been 10 minutes.
Sure. I pull out one of those holy symbols and see if it's still glowing or not.
Nope. You also notice your ring, which always kind of has like a glow to it, is dull right now.
So is it like shadowy darkness or just dark?
It's just dimmer light because you no longer have the actual light in the room hasn't changed. It's you no longer have your detect magic, which was technically brightening everything because anything magical glows.
Okay, so I mean, I've seen silent spells before. I understand anti-magic zones because of Eladrin nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a line that I crossed that was distinguishable when that happened, when I lost that ring feeling?
Make me an Arcana check.
Pretty good. 16 plus 2, 18.
Okay, so thinking and instantly when this happens, and as soon as you think the thought anti-magic zone, you stop moving and start just looking around, and suddenly you start moving again because she doesn't stop, and she yanks you hard, and you almost fall, but she moves you fast enough that you kind of keep your feet. You make it all the way to the landing onto the bottom. She kind of drags you up onto the platform. And
sure.
As you
I say, uh-oh.
As you look around, you do notice a small area, and you kind of figure out where the line would have had to be. And you look and you're like, well, it's possible there could be an anti-magic zone. It could have just been like a glyph of dispel magic.
Sure.
You're not 100% certain, other than the fact that you look down and you look at your ring and it has that slight glow to it again, indicating that there is magic stored in it.
Well, if she won't stop and she seems unnaturally strong, go away. I will. Yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
I will attempt to cast another spell with my one hand, but I'm not gonna like cast it out. I'm gonna like touch my gauntlet to my other hand, and I want to see if I can activate a rune or not.
Sure.
Okay.
It's significantly more difficult than you originally thought to cast one-handed.
Sure.
So it takes you a little bit of focus, but you do cast it into your gauntlet, and you do see one of your runes starts to glow.
Okay, thanks, bye.
And she finally kind of lets go of your arm, and she goes to the altar in the center and starts just kind of drawing on it with her finger, but there's no dust or anything on the altar, so she quite literally is doing nothing.
So that looks cool. Any updates on who you are or what we're doing here?
She doesn't seem to hear you, or if she did, she's not reacting to you. While this is all going on, the rest of you guys kind of saw him try to stop at about the midpoint of the stairs and then get dragged down the stairs and onto the altar. You guys saw him do something weird with his arm. He touched his gauntlet, and now he's just kind of standing there as she feverishly scribbles with her finger on this big old slab of stone.
Is there any natural light in here whatsoever? Or any light, like a torch or anything, or is it just pure dark?
That's the thing. You hadn't quite realized it up until now. But there are no light sources around. However, there's just an ambient kind of dim light throughout the entire room. The reason you didn't realize it is everything in the room everything in the room is either white or gray. So your dark vision, everything is in black and white. So all the hallways being, white or gray, it just didn't quite click that you weren't seeing dark vision.
Weird question.
Sure.
Does this place remind me of a certain someone's sanctum?
Ooh. No.
Okay.
That one a lot more black and red.
I'm just gonna walk down and see if she stops me. I'm just gonna walk down towards Fade.
Yeah, so will I.
All right. Both of you feel this strange feeling as you walk past where Fade stopped, but a few feet later, as you continue walking, the feeling kind of fades. And as you get to the bottom there, next to Fade, she's still feverishly scribbling. Seems to not even realize you exist.
There's no tangible writing. She's just scribbling nothing.
Yeah. If you wanted to kind of stare and calculate, you might be able to figure out what it was she was writing somewhat by watching the shapes, but she's leaving literally no marks whatsoever on this kind of pale white stone.
Does it look like it could be like an ornamental coffin of sorts?
Make me an investigation check.
Wrong tab. Oh, I almost clicked the intimidation. That would have been an interesting result.
It's
14.
Slightly different. Show me your secrets.
14 total.
Looking at it, there are no seams whatsoever. And as you get close to it and kind of just very slightly kind of kick it, it's solid rock. If there was an opening in it, you'd be hard pressed to find it.
I mean, now seems like a good a time as any. I'll activate my old X-ray vision so I can see if I can see through it.
It's solid.
Okay. I'm just gonna, for the minute, just look around and see if I can see through anything within 30 feet.
Fade has a skeleton inside of him, kind of spooky and scary. Lillian does too. It's weird. It's like you're surrounded by skeletons.
They're all like that.
Foreshadowing. Dun, dun.
As you look around, you do kind of casually glance at one of these kind of remains coffers. You notice there aren't remains in there. It's an item that you can't really tell what it is through your X-ray vision. But you do notice this symbol of the Dark Lady on the item.
I'm gonna just go over to that.
Oh God.
Well, it's again, it's kind of sitting on the bench thing there, and it looks like a burial urn.
Okay.
You just kind of you're surrounded by this audience of burial urns and cases and all these different ways to hold ashes or other remains. But as you look at them, how long? What spell is this again? Or ability?
It's my ghostly gaze invocation.
Oh,
It only lasts for a minute.
Okay. So as you go over there, you only have about 10 seconds left. But as you look around, every single one of these things supposed to be holding remains has no remains in it. Everyone has a different item of sorts. And again, you can't really tell exactly what they are, just kind of the shape of them. And every single one of them has the symbol of the Dark Lady on them in some way, shape, or form.
I'll just casually say, I'm not an expert, despite what people say, but aren't there supposed to be something in these, like remains?
I mean, they look like burial urns. I'd assume so.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing in them.
Maybe they're just waiting for things to get put in.
This place gives me the creeps, and that's a lot coming from me.
Yeah.
I am going to be on guard. The second I see something, I'm just going to be ready.
I'm just kind of staring at her fighting with her hands. I'm not the person to ask, but Argenta's concerned. What is she doing, if I can discern it?
Make me an insight check.
Okay. 19.
So, looking at it, she's obviously writing something. And based on body language and stuff, she's doing it with an intense amount of focus and passion. Like she's feverish. And as you look, you can actually see her finger is being rubbed raw from this to the point where you're starting to see she's basically worked her way around this entire pedestal. And she's almost back to the start. And the last, 3 or 4 inches, you can actually start seeing little bits of what she's writing, because she's actually rubbed her finger down to where she's drawn blood.
Oh. It's a freaking blood sigil!
I didn't face any idea what she should be doing.
Well, as a matter of fact, I don't. It's very interesting to see the lack of materials and chanting.
And at the
typical with the ritual.
Moment you say ritual, suddenly she stops and the stone itself erupts in an intense indigo light that just shoots up to the ceiling. And she kind of gets knocked back a little bit as she reaches over, grabs your hand, and thrusts it onto the pedestal.
Super into it. I'll put my other hand on there too.
Okay. As you do, it feels like you've just been hit by a bolt of lightning. Energy trails across your arms, coming out of your eyes, out of your nose and ears. All of your muscles seize, and you feel this intense pain as it feels as if your muscles are ripping themselves apart.
Can I just flex my hand and turn on my shield to see if I can like catch some of this energy? Like deflector dish it back towards my chest.
Yeah. You can't move your arm at all.
Okay.
Muscles have completely seized. You guys watch and fade without even thinking. You hear this just unearthly guttural scream that it takes you a couple seconds to realize you're the one making it.
Oh, that's cool.
You okay?
And the rest of you guys just watch as Fade just kind of locks himself to this altar and starts screaming as this deep indigo energy is just kind of dancing across his armor, across his chest, across his head, everywhere.
Now, is this my indigo? Like, would Kata recognize the coloration of this?
Yes, and everyone else has seen you cast magic, so it looks identical to the color that you normally kind of glow when you cast magic. And as she's sitting there and she's kind of watching you, you see her kind of reach up to almost touch you, and then she kind of stops. And as she removes her hood, you notice she seems completely bald, but at the same time you can see this this white kind of billowing hair coming down as well, but it's kind of translucent, like it's there, but it's also not. And you keep seeing the features of her face keep kind of fading in and out. One moment she's that woman that you guys have also seen before. The next, she has this incredibly pale, almost porcelain-like face. So the dimensions are so perfect it looks unearthly. There's this deep black kind of eyeliner that goes across the eye and goes out. The lips themselves are this deep ruby red that's inviting. And she has this look, a mixture between fear and sadness, or concern and sadness. And that image keeps kind of flashing out with the woman that you kind of see, and then this kind of almost structure underneath the woman that keeps bleeding through. She slowly walks away from Fade as he's screaming in agony.
Also smiling.
Yeah. And walks up to Kata and very gingerly reaches her hand out to Kata.
Do we realize who she is?
You don't recognize her. She's most definitely not the Dark Lady. She looks nothing like her.
Damn it. Okay, I take her hand.
She very gingerly places her other hand on top of yours and then just starts guiding you down. And she kind of looks in your eye and she places her hand on your shoulder. This will hurt. But it's the only way to send you back.
I went to the others. See you in 17 years. And I brace for impact.
And she slowly places your hand on the altar, and you feel like you've just been hit by a lightning bolt. You feel your muscles all tense, as if they're trying to rip themselves apart. You let out this unearthly scream. And as the rest of you watch them start to levitate in the air. And you watch as this deep blue light that's been shooting directly out of this altar straight up has like a part in the middle. You see this bright white line get drawn vertically, and it slowly starts to open. And at first, all you can see is light. And suddenly, you can see something on the outside. You see it looks almost like ruins, but there are also tents around it as well. You see rubble and tents. You see people wandering around, and right in front of this opening, you see this woman. She's very short, has very gnomish features to you, and you can see her with this look of intense concern, screaming something out that you can't hear. Next to her is this incredibly large, built human. You can see he has these strange bone chitin-like bracers on his arms, and you can actually see these spikes growing out of his skin everywhere, and you can just see pure rage on his face as he stands there with his massive axe in a fighting stance. And Kata and Fade, as you both kind of float there, you hear in your mind the voice of this woman. I have done what was asked. Hopefully, now I shall be saved. Goodbye. And as you guys are kind of floating there, you suddenly feel this rush of motion as you are thrust through this opening. Fade?
I understand this is not a mechanic, but this is something Fade would do.
Okay.
Fade would attempt to remember this place to the point of leaving something of himself there.
Oh, okay.
So I am forcing my magic, even though I can't move. I'm trying to basically drop an anchor, how I do with my Word of Recall spell.
Okay.
Here, to the point of where just unbridled, like when we first got to the Feywild, just blast of whatever I have inside of me, and then we go.
Make me a concentration check with disadvantage, seeing as you're being ripped apart. Wow. What'd you
22.
Get? 22. So as you sit there, you try to focus, and at first, every time you try, the pain is so intense that you can't focus on anything. At one point, you feel like you're just never going to exist again. Your entire existence is just this intense pain and agony. But you suddenly just get this unbelievable resolve, and you sit there and you look around, and you can see the woman actually now is, you can see an image of her just sitting there kind of reaching out. You can see tears streaming down her face, and in this one moment of resolve, you reach out and you grab her shoulder, and you just look at her, and without even thinking, you don't even know where these words come from, you just say to her, I will return. And with that, you feel this kind of spike almost jabbed into your mind of this area. Every little bit of it you memorize. You know every single urn. You know every inch of that platform, everything. And suddenly the world turns white. Kata, you experience a similar thing where immense pain, you feel this movement, the entire world turns white. And that is where we are going to leave the Three Kingdoms and return to the kingdom of the Kael Isles.
I didn't even get to say goodbye to my new friend of me.
No.
So I will deal with the ramifications of that story when we get back to the Three Kingdoms. I do want to thank all of the Three Kingdoms players for coming out and helping me just kind of tie up this last loose end. You guys will get to deal with all this in your game in a little while. For those of you watching right now, I'm going to very quickly just go to a BBX Soon screen. It's going to mention that you could donate to Extra Life because it's from a very long time ago. I have no Extra Life donation button, so ignore that. But we will be back in just a few minutes. I just have to switch to my other game. So talk amongst yourselves. I will be right back.
See you in 17 years.
All right. Hello again. And welcome to the Kingdom of the Kael Isles, a little bit more familiar scene for those of you that watch regularly. So, to kind of bring you guys back in, the last time you guys were together, you had decided to go with the leader of the gnomes that came up to petition help from you guys, and you were going to meet at the kind of southern end of camp, so you could wind walk your way to the southern tip of Kael, which would still take the better part of like a day and a half to 2 days. It's a pretty long distance even for wind walking. Avok and Willow were dealing with their own things for a little bit, and you guys suddenly, Willow, as you went back to the tavern to kind of touch base, see how Fade was doing, because he had been unconscious for a little bit, and see how Kata was doing. You went in there. You came in to see the serrated death was in the kind of living room area in the middle of all your quarters. You see the serrated death is passed out on the ground in that living room area, and the place is a disaster area. If it weren't for the fact that there are no scorch marks, you would have thought a fireball went off in there.
I immediately race over to see if Serrated Death's okay.
Okay. So as you kind of go down, you see he is unconscious but breathing, it seems. But as you kind of look it over him, you do see what look sort of like burn marks on him, but not quite. They have this kind of sheen to them that you haven't seen before. Almost like kind of like a metallic sheen. Though as you kind of look at them and examine them, they are burns. Like they look like charred flesh and things like that. They just have a metallic shine to them, but they don't feel metallic in any way, shape, or form. And as you look a little closer, you notice they almost have a glow about them, though it's very, very faint.
I cast Cure Wounds out of my Iron Stone and just see if that helps him.
So as you sit there and you focus the healing energies onto him, you see the charred bits themselves seem to start healing, though these are really bad, so it's going to take more than just a single cure wounds, but you think they're curable. However, the marks where the scars were are still there, almost like a ghost image. And they still have that sheen to them, and they still have that very faint, almost imperceptible glow.
I call some specters over to watch him, and then go try and find Kata. Because I think Fade is still passed out, so I'll try and find Kata.
Okay. As you go to her room, do you go in or knock or what?
I knock and then go in.
Okay. So knock, no answer. You go in. Her room is just as kind of foresty as it normally is, but there's no Kata in there.
I start to go into every room and see if anyone is up here, including Fates.
So next to Kata's room is Avok's. Do you go in there, or do you go directly to Fade's?
Technically, Fade's is next to.
Oh, sorry.
Kata, but that's fine. It's okay. I'll send you a map eventually. So she would go to Fade's next time.
Okay, so as you go into Fade's room, it's a bit disheveled. You're not quite used to seeing it just not kind of impeccably clean, just because that's Fade. And there's no Fade here either. You do notice the top set of blankets from his bed are also missing.
I run to Avok's room and see if he's there.
believe at this point Avok was out. So yeah, you burst into Avok's room. It's Avok's room. There are things that are broken and smashed from his last tirade, but there's no Avok.
Willow starts a little panicky. Make sure the story of death is okay with the specters, and then races out of the tavern.
As you start to go, you slip and fall. And as you look down, you try to see what it is you slipped on, because you have, first of all, your center of gravity is pretty low. You don't tend to fall over often. As you look down, you see a shard of his bed covers. You apparently stepped on it, and because parts of it were burned, the ash created this very slick, and it just slipped you right off your feet. But those bed covers that were missing, you found a piece of them burnt.
She picks it up, takes it with her, and is utterly terrified and goes to try and find anyone that she trusts outside of the tavern.
Okay. Did you say...
Did I know where Avok was?
Good question. Avok, where are you right now when you're not in the tavern?
Well, if I'm not in the tavern, where are we? Where's the... Like...
We haven't left yet.
I thought you had gone to speak to someone, if I remember correctly. We're going back a month here.
I had gone to speak to the gnomes and get that all arranged. And then I came back.
The last time I had a conversation was with Solinier, but I feel like we're well past that point. But I don't know. We'll just whatever.
Let's say, for simplicity's sake, let's say this is at the end of your conversation with Solinier. You've just finished that.
Okay, so I'm just walking back to the fucking tavern to drink away my frustrations.
All right. So as you're kind of walking back, you watch as the doors themselves burst open and Willow comes rushing out. Willow, as you come rushing out, the first thing you see is a slightly surprised Avok kind of standing and looking at you slightly weird.
Do you know where Fade and Kata are?
They're not in their rooms?
No, and they're burned, and she holds up a piece.
What?
And then immediately tries to cast Sending to Fade.
Okay. As you start to kind of concentrate on forming the spell and casting it to Fade, you can't find a target for this spell.
Oh, shit.
And as you concentrate harder and harder, you suddenly feel this massive amount of heat kind of erupt right next to your face. And there's this huge rush of air that knocks you down. And literally inches from where you were standing, there is this pillar of white, hot light. It is perfectly straight. It's not even really a pillar. It's a line of perfectly white light.
The fuck?
I don't know. I just tried to reach out to him.
And as you
Do
look
I have
at it,
any idea?
no, you've never seen anything like this. Especially not something that just kind of appears without any sort of casting. And as you see it, it suddenly starts to go and gets wider, and it gets brighter. And even though it's the middle of the day and you've got sun shining down, this is so bright you have to avert your eyes. And after a couple seconds, the light dims a little bit, and you look through and you see Kata and Fade kind of suspended in the air with this expression of excruciating pain. You can see their mouths open, and it looks like they're screaming, but there's no sound.
Willow is shaking and just tears have started falling and she doesn't know what to do.
Okay, as you sit there watching, you watch as Kata starts rushing towards you. Suddenly, she comes through this doorway type thing, and she lands on you. Kata, as soon as you exit the doorway, the pain subsides, and you suddenly find yourself hurtling and ramming into Willow as you both kind of tumble end over end just from the momentum of it.
Hey, do we end up in a position where I end up, like, on all fours pinning her?
Sure. Willow, you're just looking up into Kata. Kata is drenched in sweat. You can see she's breathing incredibly heavily. Kata, despite the fact that the pain has stopped, you still kind of feel that echo of it. And for a moment, you don't even know where you are. You're just so disoriented. Suddenly, you look down, and you and Willow are like nose to nose.
Are you alright?
I okay. Spade?
Avok, as you keep watching with your weapon ready, you watch as Fade goes from this kind of look of pure pain and agony to he kind of closes his eyes, grunts, and he reaches forward. And as he reaches out, you see his hand grasp something doesn't seem to be there. Suddenly, this feminine white figure just appears. And you can see his hand is gripping her shoulder. He makes eye contact with her and mouths something. And suddenly, you see him rushing towards you. And as he comes to the doorway, you hear his kind of unearthly cry of pain and agony as he impacts you.
He bounces off me.
Well, I was going to have you roll me a strength check, because
sure.
Heavy armor plus momentum, even you would have a hard time.
Well, that's a 19.
With your athletics?
Oh, we're adding athletics?
Athletics, yes.
In that case, that's a 24.
So as Fade comes through, he hits you, and you've been hit by a lot of things. You've never had a full-grown Eladrin just get thrown at you in heavy armor. So as he hits you, you actually have to kind of widen your stance a little bit, and you slide a good 6 inches as he impacts you, and then you just kind of stand there, and he just flops to the ground in front of you.
What the fuck was that?
Fade, as you come through the barrier, the pain stops the moment you come through, but you still have that echo of pain, and you're still kind of screaming despite yourself. You suddenly feel something very solid impact, and it kind of catches you for a moment, and your motion stops, and then there's nothing holding you up anymore, and so you just drop to the ground in a pile of, Eladrin parts and armor. And as you slowly regain your senses, you hear Avok say that, and you look up to him, and he's just kind of looking at you. You look over, and the doorway of light just disappears.
Whoa, we back.
Where did you go?
What the fuck happened?
I feel like I'm still screaming at this point.
Sure.
Willow is still crying then.
Hey, we back.
He's still crying?
Like, I think that, even though, I hit this Avok wall and fell to the ground, my hands are still kind of, out, holding the altar that isn't there. And then I just, the voice just silent, and I just kind of super dazed, because, at the end there I got, an extra little mind spike, and I was already on the edge, so I think I'm just like, my eyes are open and I'm completely aware of everything around me, and I just kind of reach for Avok and see if he'll help me up, and just kind of like climb up on him, and give him the whole blind person just touch the face thing, and then I'll quick look around and find Willow, and I'll just go run and hug and pick up, and there's no words for a little bit. We're back, and I look at Katsu, and I kind of give her a nod over Willow's shoulder.
We remember what just happened, right?
Yeah, it's very, very fresh in your mind. The pains specifically, very fresh. Avok, you notice Fade is slightly more touchy-feely than you remember.
Well, we went on a trip from not to long ago.
Now, you guys were there for about a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Without saying anything, I see if my raven pops back.
As you kind of focus, it's there.
And he mimics "I love you" to Willow as Fade is not talking.
Aww.
And puts her down and just kind of finds a chair somewhere.
You guys are literally right outside the tavern. If you
I sit on a stool and just put my head down and just finger up.
We'll wave to specters without even vocalizing, and there are drinks and blankets and yeah.
Oh, thermal blankets outside of anything that ever happens. Got it.
Okay, is anybody gonna say anything? What the fuck was that? What the fuck happened?
Just
Where
as
the fuck were you guys?
Just as I say, we traveled 17 years in the past.
What?
And
Yeah, apparently, Dark Lady was having a fight with thing inside Fit. Wait.
when you say Dark Lady,
Yeah, and suddenly I remember. Faye, do you hear Kraken?
like, I hear her say that, and I know, but where? And I remember Katya and I were just outside the mansion when that all happened, right, Jody?
Yeah, I believe Willow kind of ushered you into the tavern area of the mansion so you could sit down.
I mean when we first got pulled back.
Yeah, it was literally right outside.
Answers are coming. Kato, we got to find her.
Yeah.
And I rush out without saying anything else.
Okay. As you burst through the doors again, you see a crowd of people about 20 feet away, obviously huddled around something.
Oh, shit.
I hope she's okay.
I yell move and I sprint over there.
As you fight through a pretty large crowd of people, you see two of the healers from the healer's tent tending to the Dark Lady, who seems to be unconscious on the floor.
Oh, God.
Does she still just look like a person, though?
Answer that in a second. Avog?
Okay, I just want to add a little bit of fun.
Sure.
As they're fighting through the crowd, I want to just go Princess Bride on this. Fucking move the hell out of the way!
So Fade is kind of, hey, move. And Avog's like, hey, everybody move! Thank you.
Thanks, Avog.
Love that. So, except not quite as polite. So you do make it in. What was your question, Fade? I'm sorry.
Does she still just look like in her guise as a person, not like a shiny deity or anything? Like there's no mask that has been dropped?
As you look at her, she does look slightly different than the woman you saw before. Her skin now has kind of a bluish tint to it, though if you weren't thinking about it, you would probably just think she has extremely pale skin. And her face itself has kind of a pristine quality to it. Before she was a very beautiful woman, but now her face almost has an unearthly beauty to it. Her features are just that little bit too perfect.
If did Avok manage to clear a full path?
Yeah, people generally don't stand in his way.
So Fate is terrified that using his powers is draining her now. Like everything he's tried to do has made things worse. So he uses the kata nature heal and from the ring and throws it at her to try to heal her. And see, as I yell to one of the sergeants or captains that we see and get us to a tent. We need privacy right now.
As you sit there and try to cast the spell, it's almost as if you're trying to cast it on nothing. You can't get a target for this spell.
That's fine. We've been here before.
Oh God.
But I made a promise, and I'm not going to kill myself to pump heals into this thing. So, I will. I mean, I'm pretty okay physically, so I'm going to pick her up and find the nearest small tent. And Ava, clear that tent, please.
Right. Fuck off. Everyone, fuck off.
There's two humans that you walk in on, two young gentlemen that are mid-kiss, that as you come in, they're both like, and just kind of...
Walk somewhere else.
Obviously, you interrupted something.
Kael supports LGBT.
As you bring the Dark Lady in, there's this room specifically was just kind of a waiting area almost. There's some chairs in there, and there's a single table. So, Fade, what do you want to do?
If there was a physical form that I was able to pick up,
yep,
I will lay it down somewhere. And
as you pick her up, you do notice she's a lot lighter than you remember.
Super wonderful. That's fine. I'll set her down carefully, and I'll just kind of look and stick my head out. And whatever officers I see, we need a perimeter of 30 feet. Hold it. This is your priority for the moment. And I duck back in.
Look at you, kind of like you're nuts. They look over to their commanding officer, and he just kind of nods to them. And they set up a perimeter.
And I do my best with Kata's help to recount what happened.
Yeah, it was quite an adventure you guys missed out on.
Yep, that's what it was. With the Kraken, and fully explain everything that's happened from the point of me contacting it to the taunting it's been doing to her battle with it and the corresponding fucking cannon back and cannon back forward. But we're here now. How long were we gone?
I had lunch with the gnomes. So lunch?
I'm sorry. This is the greatest. Like, we did this and this. We were gone for weeks. What happened? I had lunch. Ham sandwich with a little mayo.
Hyperbolic time chamber?
We were going to leave tomorrow to go find the Dwarven City to deal with the Kraken.
At least we didn't fall behind schedule here. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, Faye, do you still hear Kraken in head?
It's not a constant thing. He just fucks with me at the worst possible times. I don't know. I'm not about to try to talk to him anymore, or it anymore.
Faye,
As you're kind of discussing this, you hear this very weak voice from behind you. You should no longer have any issues with that abomination.
Before I've even turned around, I drop to my knees.
Dark Lady, are you okay?
And she kind of tries to push herself up. She gets to kind of a sitting position, and you watch her eyes kind of roll back, and she starts to fall back down on the table.
I try to prop her up.
Okay. So it takes a little bit of effort just to get over to her before she conks her head on the table. But you get over there, and you notice, Kat, even for you, she's very light.
Oh boy.
So you have no problem kind of propping her up. And as she looks around, she, where am I?
You're one of the tents. Oh, okay.
And she kind of sees Fade like in a prostrate position, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
On the ground, and you see her kind of smile for a moment. Because my chosen, please rise. I may need your aid in a moment here.
That happens.
How much time has passed since the ritual?
Apparently about an hour.
You... And she looks at you, and she kind of puts a hand on your arm, Fade, and you see this look of an emotion you can't quite tell, kind of like a mixture between recollection and recognition. And then she turns and she places a hand on Kata's shoulder, and then kind of resides herself and goes back. That does answer a few questions.
It's an hour or two or many, many years.
Probably quite confused over what has happened to you.
I don't care about what's happened to you. You're different than before.
Well, part of that is this. She raises her arm and she has this very intricate looking bracer, which as you look at it, you see this amazing, beautiful kind of artwork inlaid and embossed into it. And at first, it doesn't look like anything other than just really beautiful shape work and things. But as you look at it closer, it very soon becomes obvious it is her holy symbol woven and embossed into these bracers, but in such a way that if you weren't looking for it, you wouldn't notice it. But once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Ah. was there when Aether and the Story of Death made those bracelets, right?
Mm-hmm. So you would have seen them before. But Faye, this is the first time you've seen them. And as you look at them, you can feel the power coming off of them. Very similar to the power you feel from your gauntlet. And she goes, they have helped me to focus my power, to contain more of it in this shell.
Oh, not good. Okay. Whatever keeps you safest.
We had an disagreement with your new acquaintance. I decided to show him exactly what the difference between a powerful mortal entity is and a god.
There's a little bit of a smirk there.
I underestimated exactly what he is. One day, someone will have to deal with that thing. But for the time being...
In of our case.
Yes.
I think that at this point, I apologize to Avik and Willow for not answering them right away, and just like I said, we just kind of explained during this moment like what just happened, so to speak, to us. And even though I don't think it's possible, the circumstances lent to us being back in time. And as I say that, I look to the Dark Lady. Does she confirm or deny that?
The creature, the entity I battled with is not purely a mortal creation. It has lived for so long, has become so powerful. Its very essence infects this world, this existence, even time. By breaking its hold on you, you were flung as if a tree branch had been pulled to its limit, then suddenly released.
Then I say, my lady, I did what I could to give you a thread, another thread. I don't know if it's there, but if you look to the Three Kingdoms, you might have a place there. At least you used to, I hope.
When I was whole and doing my duty, I was aware of the Three Kingdoms. I had a rather thriving temple there. Though
thriving is not the word.
Not all who worship there worshipped me and did my bidding. I am aware of it, as I was aware of you. Many years ago, I did not know what you would become. There was a young, blossoming being just coming into her power, who asked for my help, and in return, she returned you to me.
Who was that? How I don't understand how she even. It doesn't make sense what she did, but it's amazing, and I thank you for helping get us back. But who was she?
The woman you met was no longer herself at that point. She had sacrificed herself in my name to aid you. She was possessed by an entity that I will not get into her existence at this moment. Suffice it to say she is powerful, but then was very young and frightened and in need of aid. So by using this young woman as a vessel and eventually as payment for this ritual, we were able to bring you here, and I was able to deal with things there. Then.
Well, once again, I'm in awe of your power, and I wouldn't be here again without you. I'm yours to command. The plan on the table, and I talk about the Dwarven City.
And she kind of agrees. You see her kind of fading in and out of consciousness. Suddenly she kind of looks at you, and she puts her hand on her chest, and it starts to glow blue. And she closes it, brings it out, and just kind of holds it in front of you.
I go to kiss the hand.
She takes your other hand, places it under, and opens her hand, and a very small white jewel falls out. It's completely smooth, looks almost to be like a pearl, but it's in kind of a diamond shape, and is pure white. No off-white, no blemishes whatsoever. And she closes your hand around this. It says, keep this safe.
I want to swallow it, but that's only temporary.
I made a promise that I must keep.
Of course. And where would you like us to escort you back to your quarters?
Yes, please. I need rest.
Like, would this be like something that I want to hide from the camp in all prying eyes, like her new state of being? I guess I ask her, would you wish to be hidden from prying eyes?
Unless they already know of me, most will not detect a change.
Okay.
take her back then.
All right. Takes you 10 minutes to get her settled in and everything. She, as soon as you kind of tuck her into bed, she's out like a light. And as you walk out, you see a couple of the healing tent volunteers kind of come over. They mention they'll look in on her and make sure she's okay. They seem oblivious to who she actually is, but she's kind of formed a friendship with them.
Very good. Then I will simply look to Avok and Willow and Kata and say, when do we want to go? Are we? I guess we're still on schedule.
Yeah. Okay.
One of you should probably look at the serrated death.
Wait, what happened to him?
Unconscious.
Oh, shit.
Hope he's okay.
As you guys
He's
kind
being
of
looked after, but
rush back to where the tavern entrance was, you see this serrated death just slowly kind of limping his way out, and he kind of runs into you. Oh. Hello.
you're awake.
My head hurts something fierce.
Sorry, partially our fault.
Oh.
You know what happened to him?
And that blast must have hit him too.
I heard some commotion, bright lights. Went to see what was happening, then the dark lady was floating in the air. I helped with what I could, severed a connection, I think. And then...
High five.
Oh, no, loud noises. I'm going back to before she take a nap. Oh.
Sleep well, sir.
And as he walks away, he stops and turns around. 10 years in the pits, gladiator battles. 10 years. I didn't feel as bad as half the interactions I have with you lot. That says something. And he turns around and limps off.
So, follow the gnomes. Willow, did you discuss plans with them?
We leave tomorrow morning with Mald. He'll be our guide. The rest are going back on foot.
I'm fully just ignoring everything that happened at this point. It's just, I have to compartmentalize so much at this point that Fade is... This doesn't relate to anything else anymore. So that's the thing.
Willow still looks very dazed, and it's just not completely engaging her. Something about the sight of seeing you two held in the air and being tortured, you know.
It was too much pain to think about anymore. Is all I say on it.
Okay.
So we're leaving tomorrow.
I sure hope so.
Alright, then let's just get fucking wasted or something, because this has just been whatever.
And I pull out the three of the remaining 5 flaming holy symbols made of stone, and I give one to Avok and one to Willow. And you have continual. Yep.
Bring them out. You notice that there's something different about them, and as you hold them, they just kind of crumble in your hand.
That's too bad.
And they're gone.
Well, it's been a day.
Mm-hmm. Heck, it's been a week and a half.
I'll give Kata a little clawless knuckles, and yeah, let's not do that again. Should I check on it? Should I check in on those guys?
As we first one fight, I say, I know I say too much sometimes and come off like a real jerk, but we don't need you with head straight, so the rest of us not scared. Okay?
So more incredible violence. Got it.
Sure, let go with that.
And more drinks.
So drinks,
please.
Cheers.
So you guys kind of drink the rest of the day and night away. Anything else you want to do before you hit the hay?
I'd probably let Cade know that his room's pretty destroyed and that I can't fix it today.
What happened? What did you do?
Left in a blaze of maybe fire. I don't know.
Oh yeah, that was pretty big fight.
Wait, so you can
I
just
missed out on a fight.
No, it happened 17 years ago.
One before we were sent back to the past. And she mentions that Phaedrum is kinda decimated.
So look at Will, and you can just fix this with not a big deal, not much effort on your part, right?
I mean, the next time I make, it'll be perfectly fine. We'll make any changes we want. It's just tonight. There's no bed.
I am very interested in breaking a lot of things right now.
There's a lot of extra space in here. There's literally several guest rooms for people we never have sleep here. So she leads you down the hall, and there's in this hallway 8 rooms for you to break whatever the fuck you want.
Avok, bonding experience.
Avok does have a fire pit in his room, so I think he does it more regularly than the rest of us.
Well, shit. Just never gonna connect with this guy, no matter what happens. He's like a closed book.
I guess that I got nothing else, really.
Okay.
Nope.
So you all
bedtime.
Get to sleep. Yeah. Have a really nice, restful sleep. When you get up, any prep work before you head out?
Ritual cast Identify on the weird pure gem, and then Death Ward Willow, and that's about it.
as you try and cast identify on the gem, it doesn't react like a normal magic item would, or even just a mundane gem. The only thing you get is a single word, Celeste. That's it.
Yeah, that happens, and I just think about the safest place that we could have this, and I feel like it's with us, because even though we have all these apparent allies and this starting to be well-fortified camp, we need to... I still don't trust many people, so yeah, I guess that stays with me.
Trust issues are well earned.
For sure.
So, you guys get a rest. You get up in the morning and get ready to head out. As you meet at the southern end of the camp, you see a little gnome with this little backpack that's almost bigger than he is, waiting there with a walking stick, smiling through his beard. Oh, finally here, are we? Like to sleep in, do you?
We had long day.
Good to see you again.
And he kind of tilts his hat and bows a little bit. Well, we should get going then, shouldn't we?
I did tell him last time that we were going to travel as wind, so he will be prepared when this happens.
I pick up the latest order of reagents from our boy, the new quartermaster.
Hold up. Guys, quick question. Are any of us, I know I'm not, but are any of you carrying potions of healing?
Are we?
Yes. I just got some. Let me look in my thing.
Yeah, because one helped to be correct.
Yeah, I still have all mine.
Do I even care? Yeah, I know I don't carry any because
I think we got 2 last time, and I took 1, and someone else took 1.
I got a really good one from the temple where we met Aether. I've got one, and then what's his face? Sven? Ugh. Sven.
The best character in the game.
You're not wrong. He is. It's just rough getting to know him. We still have 2 regulars from the original deal I made with him, where we scammed them. And then I have a grader, and I have 3 graders somehow. I think we got
1 grader.
And one of us should have a superior.
Give that to Avok so he can drink it.
Yeah,
Then,
I feel like I should pull I don't know, just carry a couple, and if the ones who have less hit points than me go down, at least I'll have you covered.
Okay.
So I'm getting
the
a
ones
superior
that have
and
less hit points than me. You mean everybody?
essentially. So I'm getting a superior and a greater. Am I correct on that? Or just a superior?
superior, if you have 1 greater, I'll give you a second, and then I'll give another one to
I don't have.
Willow.
I'm not holding any.
Okay. All right, so I'm editing my bag of holding inventory. So you are now holding a superior, a greater, and 1 regular.
Sounds good.
And then Willow, you are getting 1 greater from mine. Kato, how many are you holding, and of what type currently?
In the inventory, I wrote it down that we had 2 graders, so...
That's fine. Then you still have one of them.
Okay.
And I will then... Okay. So that seems right. Got more paper and ink for my boy, because it's a standing order. Got some more incense. And...
See, guys, I can put a shopping episode in without any shopping.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sorry, Jody.
No, this is fantastic.
Any other prep work before Kata starts turning everyone into farts?
I give the standard message to Prince Consort saying I will try to check in with you once every 3 days. If you don't hear from me, there's nothing you can do. Just be on alert. And hopefully we see you. I think we're going just to get them started and then coming right back, right? Team?
Yes, that's right.
Thus far, that's the plan.
Yeah,
we're going to basically open the gate.
Yep. Open the gate, and then I will recount how we powered up the first one with the substations and everything. And then hopefully Willow can help us redetermine how to work that control panel map station in the middle. That's all we need to do. So let's get started on that.
All right. So yes, Kata, if you will.
Yeah, let's go for one walk.
Right, so as she starts casting, you guys start feeling yourself get lighter and lighter. Your bodies start to fade, and soon you are entities made entirely of wind. And the small bearded wind kind of starts off, and you all follow him as you start heading south. You fly over the mushroom forest you originally dealt with on your way there, though you notice it's not quite as large even as the last time you flew over it. And shortly after that, you see the emerald forest with the crazy crystal trees.
Mm-hmm.
And as you keep going, you eventually start drifting more towards the east coast, simply because it's easier to pick out landmarks. You see on the horizon, you see Olgoth as you fly over it. And as it's getting to mid to late afternoon, as you're flying, you suddenly see quite a bit of movement below you. And as you get closer, you see something that forces you to kind of make a double and triple look at it.
Mm.
As you look down, you see a bunch of humanoids. You can see some half-orcs, some humans, one or two elven-looking people, though you're pretty far up. And they all seem to be battling these two massive creatures. They're roughly humanoid in shape, though they're at least 14 to 20 feet high. They have these massive wings coming out of their backs, and they have these huge shields and massive swords in their hand, and they just keep slamming into these people. One swing is enough to hit 4 of them. You watch them get beaten back. You see a few try to get away, and one of the creatures will just leap into the air, fly over and stop him, and corral them back together.
I mean, so is it standard operating procedure, Willow, to have raries for Windwalk? I don't know if we determined that. Is that something you do? The telepathic thing? Is that something
raries
you do?
Yeah.
I don't know if we
It only
discussed.
lasts for an hour, so it depends on how
Okay.
far we are.
Okay.
Yeah, probably try
Would
to
be.
now.
You're basically at the very end of your wind walks that only last 8 hours, so you've got about an hour or two left of wind walk, so that would have faded.
All right.
And this was just passing Olgoth, you said?
You're probably around there, a little bit less than halfway to Asera.
Okay. Oh, that's a bad place to stop. But I look at the other clouds and see if any of the other clouds are slowing down.
Willow, of course, is hesitant. Doesn't want to give everybody away, but
I'm super into helping random people lately, so
As
if
you
you're
guys
also
are
hesitant,
kind of discussing it, you see one of the people there lifts up a spear, not completely unlike the one that Soline now wields, but instead of the emerald armor that she wears, he is in this pristine silver armor, and he jumps into the air high enough that he actually gets close to you guys without seeing you, and plunges down with his spear to try and impale one of them, and you watch them just lift their sword in the air, and he impales himself on the sword, coughs up some blood, and they just fling him to the ground as he just kind of lays there, clutching his wound.
well,
trees in this area.
Say again?
Are there trees or something that I can hide behind?
Not here. You
Will
guys
they
are
not become
really
friends?
close to the coast, so the tree line is probably about a mile inland.
And there's nothing that would give us
The
cover
water.
from the line of sight of these creatures.
the water. Let's go in the water.
That's
Oh.
true.
I veer towards the water.
Willow follows.
Right?
It's fine.
Yeah,
There is
follow.
a bit of a surf that you guys can go into.
Yeah, I get myself like a foot underwater and I start to change back.
Okay. The only issue being in your gaseous form, you can't actually go underwater because you'll immediately rise to the surface. You're just not dense enough to break the surface tension. But as soon as you start to revert back, you would go underwater.
I think it would make sense. See, we didn't actually say this out loud.
No.
What?
Well, like for transformation, like should one person do it before the others? But so I gaseous form, lay down like I'm going to be floating like a dead person in the water, and I start to transform back.
Okay. As soon as you have any sort of weight, because you're in heavy armor, you sink. And
Oh my god!
It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, you can hold your breath for a little bit. What is it? A minute plus your con mod?
Yeah, we're good.
So as you kind of sink, you do realize you're far enough out in the surf that you're about 10 feet underwater, which is not a crazy thing. You stand up, you've got another, 4 feet before you break the surface.
Yeah, sure.
So that's where you are. Do the rest of you try and go underwater when you come out, or what are you trying to do?
Willow was intending to get some sort of cover, so seeing fade for the water, she would have gone to the water too.
Okay.
I mean, Avak's gonna follow the two of them.
Avak, you're slightly more buoyant with your lack of armor, but you can get under without too much difficulty. Willow, you'd be the same. Or Kata, sorry, would be the same.
Yeah, and while I transform back, I curse in my thoughts that I will probably be using a 7th level slot to get us back on the path.
Well,
Oh, we can't hear.
spell would
We're
have
fine.
ended in a couple hours anyways. So
We used 85% of Windwalk to get to the coast, and there's a thing here to see, so we're going to investigate.
Okay.
and technically, as long as you don't lose concentration, Windwalk stays working. You can transform back and forth as many times as you want in that 8 hours. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you all get in. You're all in this surface itself, and this surface is high enough that you don't think anyone saw you. There really wasn't a lot for them to see, to be blunt. You were invisible gas, and then transformed right at the water's edge. So you guys are
How
currently.
far away from home?
I'm assuming you guys get close enough where you can stand and be above the water. So now you're about 10 feet from where the shoreline is, and they're fighting about 150 feet inland.
Like, we just saw a silver dragon knight go down, and I'm super interested in saving him.
Mm-hmm.
So, because Elaine's was a brass, right? Am I wrong about that?
Gold.
Oh, okay. Well,
Still metallic.
That's fine. Like, we didn't hear anything about a silver dragon in any of our recon so far, so I'm really into helping that guy's side one way or the other.
Okay.
So I will whisper that once we surface. And I mean, what do you guys think?
I really don't want to get involved with another fucking dragon. I don't care what color it is.
I
Willow,
don't think we're getting involved with the dragon. We're just saving some people who need help.
Willow, can you turn any of us invisible? Is that a thing? I was reading. I didn't perfect that yet. That ability.
Yes.
Because Avok, you're really strong, and we can probably make you really fast if you want to just go in, snatch the dude, and bounce. Maybe we can not even fight those things right off the bat.
And leave the rest of them?
Well, no, that's the distraction force.
What is happening as we're having this conversation?
As
Like,
you guys
dying.
are speaking, you can see more of these people are trying to fight. And now that you're close enough, you do notice they're all wearing a similar armor scheme. Kind of like Fade, you would kind of liken it to Platinum City garb, where all people in the Eladrin army would have a similar kind of color scheme, and they'd have a tabard with the Eladrin crest on it and stuff. So these guys obviously look to be all part of this same fighting force, but nothing they're wearing looks familiar to you. First things first, their armor has fur built into it, which on a cold night probably really good, and it's probably nice as an additional form of padding. But in this part of the Kael Isles, like, you get hot just looking at it. And yet, even with this kind of fur-lined armor, with this strange kind of silver tabard with a black crest on it that you've never seen before, and doesn't even look Eladrin or Elvish in any way. And any society, at least in the Kael Isles, has to be either Eladrin or Draconic from Draconia, and these guys are neither.
I look at everyone and say, should I try to talk to them?
Well, they're in the middle of fighting these two very large creatures, and now that you can see them, they look like full humanoids with alabaster white skin, almost as if they're living constructs. However, they have real skin. It's not stone or anything. They're not animated statues, and they have these massive wings. They look angelic. Almost. There's kind of, for lack of a better term, a perversion to their form. Their eyes are not what you would consider angelic. They have this evil look in them, this malice and contempt in them. Their mouths are twisted into this kind of very evil snarl as they sit there and just keep slamming into these over and over. And they'll get hit back, and then they'll rush in and start attacking again. And as you watch these two creatures, you can see this almost like energy transferring between them. And you watch as one of the guys on the ground just takes a spear and jabs it underneath one of the plates of this creature's armor, sticks it in, drives it in hard, and pulls it out. And you see this kind of white, syrupy liquid start pouring out. And the creature looks at him and just backhands him with his shield, and he goes flying. And then you watch as this bolt of energy flies from the other creature and goes right to that point, and you see the wounds start closing. Then you see a second bolt of energy, and the wound starts closing faster.
This isn't a fair fight.
No, it's not. Oh, I did. Fuck it. Avok is so short. Yeah. Guys, I'm serious.
Oh boy.
Yep. Shoot. I gotta do the thing. I gotta try doing the thing. I look at Kata Willow, say, I touch the rune and sorcerer magic, say, cast spells at me right now, quickly. So I cast a spell into it first.
Okay.
And say, just anything, anything. Give me anything. And I touch the glove, cast something.
Fairy fire.
You're gonna get to a specific level.
Whatever you want to do.
Going for?
I don't care. Anything.
Okay. Level 2 into you.
Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. I release the rune at Avok, empowering him. I infuse your weapon with energy stored in the room. The next time you hit with a weapon attack, it does 6d8 extra damage.
Holy shit!
Go get him, son. And it blows up my rune, and my hand hurts. But before you hit him, I also channel divinity to give him vulnerability to your next attack.
Nice.
I fucking love great clerics.
Okay. So,
all this while running towards
bring
them.
this a little bit more in line. As you guys are running forward, you watch as Fade grabs his gauntlet, and one of the other runes flashes to light with immense power. He reaches over to Kata and just says, cast a spell in it, and you do, and you see it flare with even more power. Reaches over to Willow and says the same thing, and you do the same thing. And then suddenly, he just looks at Avok, and as you guys are running, he just kind of grabs you on the shoulder, Avok, and you feel this immense flash of power and energy just rip through your bodies. Your muscles start to bulge. Your weapon itself starts to glow. Remind me, because I don't have it in front of me. Does it give an elemental type to the damage?
Yeah, it's going to be the first type that was cast into it. And I just cast the guiding bolt at third level. So it's an extra 6d. I just want to make sure.
Yep.
Amount of damage healing block is 2d8 plus. Okay, so it's actually 7d8 radiant to whatever your normal weapon attack is.
So your axe is now glowing with this brilliant, radiant light, and as you all start running forward, you see the troops that are being decimated kind of look, and they see just these people running out of the water, one of which has a glowing weapon, and they sort of get into a defensive stance as Avok bounds right past them, and that is where we are going to leave it for tonight. Sorry. We will pick up on this fight next week. Next week is the first Wednesday of the month, so I'll be running this campaign again. Very sorry I couldn't run the combat, but I am not doing okay right now, and this is going to be one of the more complicated fights to run. So, with that, thank you to everyone that showed up. If you missed any of the episode, I do upload all of these to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/TrainerJody. So please check it out there. I have a bunch of other gaming content on there about D&D stuff, and I have a series where I make, characters into D&D characters. Like my most recent one, I turned Raiden into a D&D character. So check all that stuff out. Otherwise, that's all for me today, and I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.